A worker was heading home after his shift when he suddenly discovered something terrifying. His hands trembled as he reached out to touch the surface of the drilling pipe, and when he looked closely, his fingers were wet with mud. Before he could react, more mud began to overflow from the well cover, instantly shocking everyone on site. The worker immediately called the control room.
Jason, are you seeing this? Hey, Jason, are you seeing this?
The next second, the surging mud burst through the protective well cover and violently knocked everyone to the ground. Seeing this, the engineer immediately shut down the annular blowout preventer, and as the valves inside the pipeline were forcibly closed, the mud rushing from behind was successfully blocked. However, the crisis was far from over. The employee responsible for the pipeline had to open the drill pipe within 30 seconds to release all the pressure, because only then could a greater disaster be prevented. He narrowly managed to stop the mud eruption, but none of them could have imagined that this was merely the opening act before a massive deep-sea catastrophe. 2.5 days earlier, the team had taken a helicopter to the Deepwater Horizon drilling platform to conduct the final safety evaluation for deep-sea oil extraction. At first, everyone joked with each other and laughed, and everything felt calm and peaceful. After all, this was their everyday routine. The helicopter soon landed safely on the helipad. As the head of the drilling safety assessment, Jimmy noticed a special response team preparing to leave the moment he stepped off the helicopter. He found this extremely confusing, because according to the plan, they should have been conducting mud testing on the seabed at that time. When Jimmy asked whether the testing had been completed, the other party did not answer directly and seemed to be deliberately hiding something. Unclear about the situation, Jimmy and the others rushed straight to the control room. Mike, the electrical engineer, immediately carried out a routine inspection of the platform. The instruments showed everything was normal, and there were no issues with the power system. Not far from the platform, a ship was parked on the sea surface, specifically used to transport drilling mud. The presence of this ship beside the platform indicated that all preliminary drilling inspections had already been completed. However, Jimmy had never received the mud test results. This meant someone had deliberately skipped the testing process to start oil extraction ahead of schedule. As the person in charge, Jimmy was responsible for the safety of all 126 people on the platform. To figure out what was going on, Mike hurried to the central work area to ask around, but every driller there said that no mud testing had ever been conducted. He then ran back to the control room to question them again, and only then did Jason reveal the truth. It turned out that people from British Petroleum had paid a large sum of money to have the response team leave early. Mike immediately reported this to Jimmy, and the two agreed to confront the British Petroleum representatives together. On the way, Mike habitually tossed a lucky coin into the sea. As the coin slowly sank to the ocean floor, an unimaginable disaster was quietly taking shape beneath the surface. The two soon found the person in charge from British Petroleum. The drilling platform was rented by them, and because the drilling schedule had already been delayed by 43 days, the rental costs alone had exceeded $50 million. To save money, they had forcibly demanded that safety inspections be simplified. Jimmy immediately objected. Even though he was being paid to do his job, he still had to take responsibility for everyone's safety on the platform. Under Jimmy's firm insistence, Donald reluctantly agreed to conduct a pressure test. Following the instructions from the control cabin, the platform adjusted its direction. As Jason closed the annular blowout preventer, the underwater pipeline gradually began to seal. The mud inside the pipe started flowing at an extremely rapid speed, officially initiating the negative pressure test. Donald stared nervously at the instrument readings, because if the test failed, British Petroleum would have to spend tens of millions more. After waiting for a minute, the pressure gauge changed and stabilized at around 100. That meant roughly 100 pounds of pressure per square inch, which was considered a very safe value. Seeing this result, Donald immediately became smug. What he did not know was that a large number of bubbles had suddenly begun emerging from the seabed. The gauge needle instantly jumped to around 500 pounds and showed no signs of stopping. As the bubbles increased, the needle crossed the red line and surged to 1,395 pounds. Donald, however, raised an objection. With such a high pressure reading, there should have been mud flowing out of the drill pipe, yet there was none, which clearly defied logic. Jimmy and Mike were also unable to explain the situation at the time. Donald then drew an analysis diagram and concluded that the only possibility was a malfunctioning pressure sensor in the drilling pipe. He believed that a pocket of pressure had become trapped around the kill line, causing the sensor to malfunction, rather than the entire drill pipe being overpressurized. That was why the readings had spiked. even though no mud was erupting. He suggested conducting another negative pressure test solely on the kill line. If the gauge read 0, it would confirm a sensor failure rather than a full pipeline pressure issue. From a theoretical standpoint, Donald's analysis did have some merit. Jimmy and Mike could not find a way to refute it. Since no one could visually confirm the seabed conditions, they could only rely on data. In the end, they tacitly approved Donald's second test. At that moment, vibrations from the seabed became increasingly violent. Countless fragments of rock rushed into the pipeline along with the mud. Initially, the negative pressure reading hovered around 500. As the pipeline became completely clogged with debris, the kill line pressure suddenly dropped to 0. This was exactly the result Donald wanted to see. However, the drill pipe pressure remained stable at 1,395 pounds. Logically, these two readings should have matched. No matter how Jason tried to stop him, Donald insisted that since there was no mud overflowing, the pipeline was operating normally. He continuously pressured Jason using his status as an investor. As a mere employee, Jason did not dare make the decision himself. He contacted Jimmy, the person in charge. Although Jimmy felt something was wrong, the data was right in front of him, and Donald kept urging them forward. In the end, Jimmy reluctantly approved the start of operations. With Jimmy's authorization, Jason immediately opened the annular blowout preventer. The mud that had been suppressed for so long instantly surged upward through the pipeline. The control room quickly diverted the mud and pumped out the balancing fluid used for pressure stabilization. This completely removed their final safeguard. Sure enough, within minutes, the pressure gauge surged back into the red danger zone, and the pressure kept climbing. Jason immediately shut down the mud extraction when he saw this. As the workers stood there in confusion, people across the platform also noticed the abnormality. This led directly to the opening scene of the film. From this moment on, the deep-sea catastrophe spiraled completely out of control. Although the initial blowout was briefly contained, the increasing energy released from the seabed shattered the annular blowout preventer under the impact of high-pressure debris. The unstoppable mud surged through the pipeline straight toward the platform's control areas. Workers followed the strange noise and saw mud spraying out from cracks in the high-pressure pipes. Seeing the alarms, some employees thought it was just another sensor malfunction and prepared to clear the signal. But when they called the workshop, no one answered, because everyone was desperately trying to shut the valves. Experienced workers shouted for others to run, warning that they could die there. Pressure readings soaring past 4,000 signaled that what followed would be nothing short of Judgment Day. The next second, uncontrollable mud erupted violently. Jason ordered all annular blowout preventers to be shut down, but under such extreme pressure, they could only hold for a few seconds. The energy from the seabed fully erupted. The blowout preventers that had just been closed were smashed apart by debris moments later. The high-pressure mud flow was like an impenetrable wall, leaving the workers unable to take any corrective action. After multiple failed attempts, it was clear that everything was futile. Even worse, rocks spraying from the mud shot in all directions like bullets. Jason immediately ordered everyone to evacuate. The cargo ship nearby only then realized that a blowout had occurred. Inside the platform's control room, chaos reigned. Relentless mud flows destroyed surrounding facilities. Jason ordered Blackie to cut the pipe, but just as he was about to act, flying debris struck him and knocked him down. As Jason tried to help him up, an even larger wave of mud slammed into them. Donald, who had fled the control room, witnessed something even more horrifying. The erupting mud was mixed with large amounts of crude oil. These flammable gases traveled through the platform's air intake and into the combustion engines, causing the engines to accelerate wildly and the entire platform to shift. The platform was still connected to drill pipes reaching the seabed, and excessive movement could cause the pipes to bend and rupture, releasing even more pressure. Mike, who was video chatting with his wife at the time, also noticed the strange noises outside. The cockpit sensors lit up with red warnings. Susan stepped out of the engine room and was instantly terrified. She rushed back inside to call for help, but the captain stopped her. After realizing the severity of the situation, the captain went out to inspect it himself, only to find everything completely out of control. Only then did he begin calling for emergency assistance repeatedly. The Coast Guard quickly spotted the platform explosion via satellite. The captain immediately coordinated nearby rescue units, but since the platform was far offshore, rescue helicopters would take at least 35 minutes to arrive, not to mention fireboats. By then, the drilling platform had become a sea of flames. The nearby cargo ship deployed its limited rescue supplies and launched lifeboats toward the platform. Jimmy, who had been injured in the explosion, regained consciousness. He had been showering when the explosion occurred and was badly injured. After getting dressed, he staggered out of the room and encountered Mike, who had returned to search for survivors. Although Mike had been thrown by a blast earlier, he was fortunately not seriously injured. Jimmy asked Mike to take him to the control room because only he had the authority to sever the drill pipe connection. On the way, they encountered trapped workers and immediately began rescue efforts. Continuous explosions knocked out all power on the platform and the engines shut down. Susan believed the only solution was to cut the oil drill pipe, but the captain once again stopped her. The first group of evacuated workers was preparing to board lifeboats when an out-of-control crane began slamming into the steel framework above them. If the framework collapsed, everyone in the lifeboats would be doomed. A driver braved the flames and climbed into the crane cabin, but the machinery was too badly damaged to operate. He could only manually engage the emergency brake and successfully stabilize the crane. Just as the workers below cheered, another explosion struck. Mike and Jimmy finally reached the control room, where they encountered Donald hiding there. They supported Jimmy to the control console. As the pipe-cutting button was pressed, two massive blades slowly extended into the drill pipe. To everyone's shock, the overwhelming force of mud and debris shattered the blades into pieces. With the cut unsuccessful, everyone prepared to evacuate, but Jimmy insisted that the backup power had to be restored. Only then could the platform remain as stable as possible and prevent the drill pipe from tearing apart and causing even greater environmental damage. Mike and Susan pushed through the flames to reach the power distribution room. Outside felt like a blazing furnace, and the intense heat nearly claimed their lives. Inside the room, Mike followed the rookie operations manual and successfully restarted the backup power. With power restored, the platform stopped drifting, but this effort was insignificant compared to the scale of the disaster. Another explosion soon knocked them down again. Jimmy prepared to escape on a lifeboat, but discovered the last one had already launched. With explosions continuing, everyone had to evacuate quickly. Mike returned and coordinated the opening of a makeshift airboat. He sent others aboard first, intending to be the last to board. Suddenly, an explosion threw him and Susan aside. The worker controlling the airboat was engulfed in flames and jumped into the sea in panic, causing the airboat to lose control and fall. The surrounding sea was engulfed in fire, making jumping impossible. Mike pulled Susan and ran upward. The higher they climbed, the farther they could jump. They reached the helipad as the platform behind them resembled a flaming beast, ready to devour everything. Mike helped Susan put on a life vest while distracting her with conversation, but she was too terrified to jump. Pretending to chat casually, Mike suddenly pushed her off. He jumped in immediately after her. Mike quickly found Susan, and the two were rescued by a nearby boat. On the cargo ship, Jimmy called out names one by one, but several received no response. After Mike and Susan boarded, rescue helicopters finally arrived to evacuate the severely injured. By then, the drilling platform had become a hellscape engulfed in flames. Afterward, Mike and the others were taken back to the city, where he faced relentless media interviews and accusations from victims' families. The traumatic experience and psychological toll plunged him into deep fear. Soon after, his wife and daughter arrived. The love of family became the remedy for his wounded soul. Surviving was already a blessing. The family slowly walked out of the hotel. This film is based on the real 2010 Gulf of Mexico disaster. The catastrophe claimed the lives of 11 workers. The blowout lasted 87 days. An estimated 210 million gallons of crude oil leaked into the Gulf, making it one of the worst environmental disasters in U.S. history. British Petroleum ultimately paid $20.8 billion in settlements, the largest single settlement in U.S. legal history. Donald, identified as the primary culprit, was charged with manslaughter, receiving the punishment he deserved.